the girls' league tag, Ulla Murray Time Crib, and the under-14s, Rico Hanari Parko. They're the Rabbitohs nominees for Player of the Year in each of their different age groups, and those presentations are going on as we speak, so good luck to all those players.
Yeah, well, hopefully we might hear something while the show's on and we can actually pump out some results. Now, we'll just move on to the Ellenbrook United, which is the soccer team, or the soccer club, and they had a bounce back this week and to wrap up their season.
Yeah, so I think they've sort of a couple of games to go. I think they play the top of the table team this week, so it's going to be a bit tougher. But they got belted the week before 7-1 by North Perth, so they bounced back this week, beat BB United 2-0. So good to see them sort of turn that around after copping a bit of a hide. And
and you want to see that from your players. Like, the last thing you want is to just them to come out and just go, nah, you know what, we got beaten, we got smashed last week, let's just, let's worry about and it is that mentality where you have to kind of just go, you know what, we're just going to move on, we're not going to worry about what happened last week, this is a completely different team, let's just get out there and let's do what we want to do and let's have fun while we're doing it. And it's good to see that they were able to do that.
You'd have to think 7-1, treat that as an aberration.
Yeah, it was just disappointing to see that at a home game on a Friday night. There was a fair few people down there.
Okay. It's not like juniors where you just don't keep score and then you just forget that. Just go, oh no, it's all draw at the end, mate. We'd eat some oranges and have some orange juice and we're all happy. So that's unfortunate. But no, it's good that they bounced back. They're able to have a good win and hopefully, where are they? Who are they playing against this week? Sorry,
they're against the top of the table team. And sorry, I'm just having a look. Where are they? Wembley Downs, they play this week. It's at home again. We seem to play the top teams at home and the lower teams away, so it should be a tough one for them against Wembley Downs, who are on top of the table, but hopefully they can put up a good performance in front of the home fans and get a win there.
No worries. Well, we'll definitely put the details up of where that game's going to be on our Facebook page, so if you want to check In the Sheds at 88.5 with Albie, Brucey and Donnie, then get down and have a look. We're constantly putting up sporting events for the area. If you like your soccer, your rugby, your cricket, doesn't matter, we're going to be putting those up. Whilst the show goes on, if we are missing any sports, this is our first show and we do encourage people to get in touch with us and let us know their sporting events that are coming up and all the rest of it. So if we've missed anything, let us know. We're just going to go to a quick promo and we'll be back.
If you like rock and blues music, let me wake you up on The Valley Comes Alive at 88.5 every Friday at 8 a.m. with Wild Bill, where I'll be playing anything from classic rock of the 70s to the noughties, along with my favourite blues tracks. Join me from 8 a.m. to start up your Friday mornings with Wake Up with Wild Bill.
Okay, and we're back, and we're going to do something a bit different. This is the first show, so we haven't done anything like this before, so we'll see how it goes. But we've got a segment that we want to enter into called the Controversy Corner, and this is going to relate to any sport, really, that's caused a bit of controversy over the week. And what better way to fire up a bit of controversy than to discuss the Peel alignment with the waffle, because that seems to be upsetting a lot of people with the way Peel got into the finals and defeated South Fremantle this week. So let's take it away. What are your thoughts, Brucey?
I'm of the opinion that I think Peel have basically been on the receiving end of how many floggings in this competition for how many years. So I feel like it's a bit of, this is a bit of a win for the competition. We need strong teams in the competition, and we need other options other than just supporting Subiaco and Claremont. So from the Peel region side of things, I can understand the other side conversation, and that is Peel wouldn't be anywhere without the alignment agreement with Fremantle. But there had to be something that they came up with, because otherwise we were just going to see Peel slowly die. So Peel, they've got a lot of development, and they've seen a lot of players that they've gone into the juniors program, and then basically they've disappeared out of the region. They've been drafted or they're off going somewhere else. So unless that alignment came online, I feel Peel and the Waffle would have struggled a lot.
Yeah, and it's I do find it interesting that, you know, there is a lot of upset when, yes, they did have a lot of Freo listed players, but let's be honest, a lot of those guys weren't even worthy of carrying Nathan Fyfe's strapping. Right? You know, I mean, let's be honest, you know, Zach Dawson is not... You're not going to sit there and get upset that Zach Dawson was playing on the field and wasn't playing in Freo. He's played in Peel the whole time, other than maybe...
Nick Subin was one who played...
but he's been in and out as well. He hasn't really held his position. The young ruckman, Darcy, granted he's not going to be there next year, but he'll be probably full-time ruck, I would imagine, at Fremantle Dockers. But you can't say that, you know, he wasn't eligible for... he's still eligible for NAB Rising Star next season because he didn't play 10 games. So that shows that obviously he did still play a lot of football for Peel.
It has been a little bit mischievous by some people in the media by saying, Peel dropped back 16, Fremantle dropped back 15 players into the Peel team. But as you quite rightly point out, they've been playing with them most of the year through. So...
Yeah, I mean, if they dropped back Nat Fyfe, you know, for example, then yes, that is definitely grounds to get a little bit upset. But look, Peel did have a good game. They got up, they got the win against South Fremantle, which means that the Mighty Swan Districts now, after giving us shellacking to West Perth, which was fantastic to watch and to be at. But now, so we take them on next week, South Fremantle Oval. So that'll be another thing. But I also just want to mention on that is I find it funny when Subiaco fans get all up in arms about it. When you consider during their dominant period, they had basically the West Coast Premiership midfield as their midfield. But now they're a little bit upset and a little bit sour that a few of the Dockers fringe players that struggle to make a team are playing each week.
Well, you can look at the other side of the coin, and that is a lot of the East Perth, old school East Perth players and club history side of things. They've said that's basically been eroded since the Eagles side of the alignment's come on board, as far as players have just basically left the club. They're just... places now just a husk of what it used to be, because it's become basically a West Coast development squad, whereas the East Perth Royals that they grew up loving and supporting, that sort of development is no longer there. They can't see these guys week in, week out. So,
yeah. Look, if you do have thoughts on this, get in touch with us and let us know. We'd love to know what you think. But we're going to move on. And one of the other controversial things that's happened this week, and probably one of the biggest things for as far as an Australian perspective goes, is more of a local waffle level goes, but that is the axing of the Force.
Yeah, so obviously we've got the Force. They got a judgment against them during the week. They appealed the ARU's decision. Unfortunately, they lost that appeal. But I mean, for me, the whole handling of this entire issue has been diabolical from the start. It was announced really early in the Super Rugby season that there was going to be an Australian franchise team that was going to be cut from the Super Rugby competition. And for a period of time, every Australian team had this noose hanging around their neck, and very quickly the ARU cut it down to two teams. It was between the Melbourne Rebels and the Western Force, and rather than making a decision quickly, they dragged it out. They provided no guidance whatsoever as to what the criteria was that they needed to meet. There was no transparency from the ARU at all. They went through the entire season trying to work out what they were going to do next year, making all these different plans, putting all these different things in place. And the whole time they had this guillotine just hanging over their heads that could drop at any point in time. And it wasn't until the season was over, and basically there were no options for players, for staff, for all these different people that had no choices, no options left because everyone's already signed up for the year. And then they decided to cut the Force, and again, no clear justification given as to the reasons for that decision.
But the president came out and said you'll have an answer between the two clubs within, a couple of days.
Yeah.
And it took nearly 3 months to get sorted. And then he axed the Force and then resigned the same day. As if I'm going to disappear into the background and no care, no responsibility. Give it over to a judge to sort out. Give me a spell.
it's incredibly frustrating the way the whole thing's been handled from start to finish. And I suppose another thing that frustrates me is the fact that it was narrowed down to the Rebels and the Force. Now, I get the whole last in, first out principle being, a traditional way of making these decisions. But I look at the two regions. I look at Melbourne, and I think Melbourne's got a really large population. They're sporting mad. There's a lot of potential for growth in rugby in Melbourne. There's a lot of potential for corporate sponsorship, and you look at Western Australia, and you see the same sort of potential in terms of how far they can grow the game, how big they can make the game. I'd just like to see some sort of reasoning as to why the ACT Brumbies were taken off the table so early. Now, I understand they're Australia's most successful Super Rugby franchise, and that's fantastic. But what are the Brumbies bringing to rugby union in the future?
Yeah, what's Canberra's growth in population going to be in the next 10 to 15 years, other than people we'd much rather not? But, yeah, that's probably something else we probably didn't get to see. Maybe the Force got to see it, is what were their criteria in that they were choosing between us and the Rebels? Yeah. Sponsorship backing, people's attendance records, numbers, results. What was the actual, righto, we're putting these two head to head? The only thing that someone has mentioned is that the Rebels was privately owned.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't actually owned by the the ARU, what are they called? Yeah, it is the ARU.
Yeah, the ARU.
But, so basically, if they decided to axe the Rebels, realistically, the owners of the Rebels could have said, righto, cough it up.
Yeah, so it was a soft.
Whereas we were the soft target where we.
Do you think that that the decision to keep Melbourne would be a lot like with the expansion sides like GWS in the AFL and Gold Coast, where they're not? I mean, GWS is doing great, but do you think like rugby's looking at Melbourne and going, we need to keep a side there, we need to pump money in there because it is a footy state and we need to get exposure there, kind of like what they've done in Brisbane, the AFL's done in Brisbane and Sydney, where they've gone, even though we will probably do better with a third side in WA rather than a second side in Brisbane.
Tasmania.
Yeah, and they're pushing these two sides because they know that they're rugby states and they're trying to, get the results and get up. Do you think that might have some bearing on it as far as the rugby goes, with them looking at Melbourne in the same
for
eye?
Western Australia, though, as being a footy state rather than a rugby state, and that same footprint. Having a rugby footprint in Western Australia is going to be something that's important for the growth of the game. So I think you can make the argument for both Western Australia and Victoria.
But numbers have been, from the game's point of view, I believe, for the Force, they haven't been fantastic, but they've outperformed the Rebels at home games as far as attendance records go. So their results haven't been great, but...
Yeah, again, their results have been a hell of a lot better than the Rebels too. So the Rebels finished last in the Australian Conference. The Force, they actually went very close to making the finals. They finished with a wet sail, which is testament to the players that are in that Force setup, to be able to still be playing, quality rugby towards the back end of the season, when they knew there was a pretty good chance they weren't going to be around next year. So
they were actually signing players up for next year, giving them contracts. They were saying, no, we're playing. So,
and what do you think about Twiggy Forrest's idea for this new competition?
Can I just say harebrained to start with, but when you've got a pile of money the size he's got, he can make anything happen. So where does he get these other teams from? I'm just thinking Kerry Packer, Super League, from the cricket point of view, like...
Yeah, there's certainly people making comparisons to World Series cricket.
Series, that's it.
Which I can see parallels, but there's a lot of things that are different too. World Series cricket was more about the fact that prior to World Series cricket, the best players were getting no money at all.
Yep.
That's not what this is about.
Well, there's that story of one of the the girls the promo girls was actually who was holding when they were releasing the fixtures. She was getting paid more money than the cricketers were.
Yeah, yeah.
She
exactly.
showed up one day